Afternoon or good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on today. Um, Joining us today. I am so happy to be here with you in the studio and to discuss something that I think that is vitally important for today and in today's time and the things that are going through and going on right now. And that one topic is about mental health and depression that are dealing with in our schools. We know that we're dealing with it all over, but specifically in our schools, you know that what's been going on with all of the different shootings with gun violence and just in general what the NRA is trying to do in regards to whether or not we're going to keep guns legal or not, or whether they're going to change the laws on guns or not, and all of that stuff. And you have the left and the right saying all of their different things in regards to their stance in guns, or on guns, and whether we should have it or not. However, the main focus is the mentality of individuals that are actually carrying these weapons. I am a Marine, because once a Marine, always a Marine. Simplified to anyone out there that is a Marine that may be chiming in and listening to us. No offense to any of the other branches, but the Marine Corps is the best. I just have to say it. I just have to say it. So at any rate, we're trained to use weapons and use them effectively and to use them correctly and for specific purposes. I am an expert, which is the top honor in the military, in the Marine, on the Marine Corps side, for using a my pistol, as well as for the M16 rifle. So I understand, all right, the weapon aspect. This boy did not say go Air Force on him, Bradley. Anywho, he did not do that. Anyway, Marine Corps forever. Anyway, but in light of that, seriously, we want to talk about it because the mental health state of individuals in the school system and wide open is major. And I'm not talking about in the schools in regards to dealing with just high schoolers. Yes, the last shooter was like 18 years old, I believe. But I'm talking about when you having children in the schools. This was an elementary school that the shooter went into, and took the lives of 21 individuals, 19 children, and 2 teachers. And so we are dealing with that age and how they feel about it, where they are mentally, how they express themselves, can they express themselves appropriately? And thus, that's one of the reasons why I want to talk about assessing, recognizing the challenges, recognizing all of the different states and points of depression and mental health, as well as then treating it. So I have with me today a special guest, my friend and brother, Ricky Gaillard, who is very much so able to discuss this matter with us. Hey, Ricky, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So I did give a brief introduction, if you will, of the title and what we're wanting to do today. And I would like everybody to make sure that you share, follow, like, share. This is very, very important. This is a grievous situation or the things that's been happening, what we've been going through is very grievous, but the topic is definitely something that needs to be discussed, because again, we're talking about how then the children, how then the youth actually deal with these things. And so I wanted to bring you on because I know you worked in the school system, you worked specifically with troubled youth, I would say
Yeah,
teens, but I don't remember the age, but I think it was, a good variety of them. So
yeah,
tell everybody a little bit about you, your background in this, because I'm not talking to someone that has no idea. 'Cause, a lot of times, I'll come on here and I'll specifically say, I'm not, and I'll say it again, I am not a licensed counselor. However, I can direct you to someone. I can make sure that you get where you need to be in order for you to get the information that you need to get. And so dealing with this situation, I got somebody that I know that was going to be able to handle the conversation, that dealt with it. And so, Ricky, can you just go ahead and give everybody a little bit of who you are, right quickly? Oh, my brother done froze on me, Jesus. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. While he's gathering himself, I do want to let you all know that I have someone else that's in here with me, that is going to help discuss this topic. She had, as soon as I mentioned the topic with my husband in saying that this is what I was going to do, she was sitting there and she goes, "Oh," she was like, I want to talk about this." And I was like, "What?" And I was sort of kind of shocked that she wanted to actually do it and discuss this. But my daughter wanted to come in and have a discussion. So my baby girl, Kennedy Rose, not my baby girl, she's the oldest, but my girl, Kennedy Rose, is here with us today. And she's going to discuss and talk to us in regards to some of the challenges and that she faced in her middle school now. I was about to say elementary school, but she's a middle schooler. And so, Kennedy, tell me why. When I mentioned to your dad this was the topic, why did you say, oh, you wanted to talk? Like, what made you want to discuss this?
Mainly because I do go to a middle school where lots of kids actually go through this kind of mental stage. And it normally has to do with something that goes on at home or at school, maybe friends, popularity. And this topic can be a very crucial topic because some kids do make some bad decisions with this. Sometimes it it channels my curiosity to want to talk about it. That's why I mainly wanted to, because I do go to a school where lots of kids express more of a state of being where they are left out or they don't feel like they fit in. They have something going on that sometimes they need to talk about it, and it just sometimes it doesn't work. So that's why I wanted to talk about it.
So let me ask this, and I'm glad to know that you're willing to do so, at 12 years old, willing to come and discuss some of the things that's going on with you at your middle school or things that you've seen there. So can you share or give any examples of things that you've seen or you've heard? We don't want to call names or even the name of the schools. We don't want to do that. But give any examples of anything that you've seen or heard that would show a sign to you of what you think depression is, or mental, where somebody might need some assistance with mental health.
Well, depression to me means where your mind and your body go through these mood swings, and sometimes it can rage. And I've seen things at my school where some kids, they feel depression because sometimes there are kids that make them feel left out, and they feel they have a lot of doubt, thinking that they are not enough.
Mm.
So they build up all this worrying about what other people think about them, what people think, how they feel about them, and then some. It That's when depression just sweeps in, takes control of their mind, their body, and their wellness. So
Wow, wow, that is something else. So let me ask this then. Even with that information that you've given, have you ever dealt with anyone in specifics that you had to probably, or you noticed that they were depressed, and did you ever say anything to anybody or try to figure out where they are? Because I know one of the things that we talked about before, you were talking about to even the level of them wanting to possibly even commit suicide or whatever the case may be. Did you ever get to that point or ever talk to anybody deal with that?
No, I actually haven't, surprisingly, but I actually haven't.
Surprise. Well, I'm glad you haven't. I'm glad you haven't. So Ricky is back with us. I'm not sure what happened initially when he contacted we got disconnected, but he's back. So Ricky, you can go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone and let everybody know who you are, like who Ricky Gaillard is. Are you muted? No, we can't hear you now. I'm not sure what happened. That's all right. We're gonna get this together. It seems like every week that the for the last what month or so we've been having some type of technical difficulty, guys. But that's okay. We're gonna get it together. While Ricky is talking. So I'm going to share one thing that I did that my husband shared with me recently, and I think he sent me the text yesterday. And then the text yesterday, since we were talking about the mental health, he was talking about a HBCU college cheerleader that actually took her life. And when she took her life, she actually wrote a note, like a straight letter to do so because of depression in the mental health state. I've heard so many other different stories of individuals that, have been, in the state and in the light of where they could not deal with, as you said, peer pressure, being bullied. And so this young lady had been feeling this real big depressed. She was depressed, she was bullied, that outside appearance. Because one thing that I read a friend of mine put on Facebook, that people don't fake depression, they fake being well. They fake like everything is okay, so they're not faking depression at all. They're just faking that I'm good to go. Kennedy, let me ask you, have you ever been in the state, and I mean, this is a safe space, but feel free if you don't want to share. Have you ever felt though that you've been in a state to where you felt a little depressed, a little worried or upset about certain things while you were at school? Was it school related? Not probably not school related. Is there anything that you felt that way before? And I'm asking you specifically because we're dealing with the youth age. So is there anything like that that you care to share?
Well, I haven't really felt depressed about it, but school related pressure, because I am expected to do well in school, get good grades, and sometimes there are a lot of things piled up that I think that maybe I won't get done in time, or maybe I'll get a bad grade. But no, I haven't really felt this depression stage, thankfully.
Good, good. Well, that's good to know. I I'm going to pause for a split second and share some things with you all that are out there. I'm not sure if Ricky can hear us yet again, or we'll be able to hear him. Um, let's see where we are. How are you, Ricky?
I'm here and I'm talking.
All right, you're good. You're good. We can hear you now. So that's awesome. So Ricky, can you go ahead and share who you are, talk about some of the things that's going on with depression? Because like I said, for some reason, it's almost like the enemy is like, no, we're not gonna get this out. And it's like, no, we gotta share this information. We gotta talk about it. We gotta talk about, dealing with it, accessing things and all of that, because let me tell you something, it is a struggle. And so I would
Yeah.
like you to, give your background, say who you are, and then let's hit it and let's go from there.
All right. So first of all, I apologize. I don't
No
know what
worries.
happened with my technology. I think, like you said, maybe the devil's trying to battle us a little bit. I was on my phone. It's basically fully charged and it just shut off. So,
Wow,
but
wow.
anyway, my name is Ricky Gaillard. Currently, I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones. But my background is I was a behavioral interventionist for Horry County Schools for like 8 years. And I worked at a school called the Therapeutic Learning Center, where we would work with I would say kids from kindergarten all the way through high school who had emotional disabilities and other sorts of disabilities. I also, for a while, worked as a clinical staff at the Lighthouse Care Center of Conway. So, there I worked with both youth and adults with mental disabilities, and I've worked at a couple group homes as well. So I've had the opportunity to see what real depression, anxiety, and all sorts of other mental and emotional disabilities look like firsthand. And they are real. And they are things that we definitely need to talk about. And yeah, I'm here to talk about whatever. And I'm very excited that your daughter Kennedy is on. I think that one thing we as adults do, we have these conversations sometimes
Right.
about things, but we do not talk to our children about these things. And I think that that's the more important part if we're especially trying to work with you. So I'm very excited about her being on here today too.
Well, and I appreciate that because, like I said, when she said something, I was just like, "Oh, this ain't mommy alone time." like this is, we have a guest, and I really wanted him to, share with us and talk to us. But she was eager to do so because, she said that she probably would have questions. She's here so she can really talk for herself. But even having questions herself in regards to some of the things that we discussed. So in
Right.
recognizing mental health and depression, how do we fully recognize that, Ricky, when you're dealing with the youth that you've been dealing with? Like, how did you recognize, or what are the, I would say, signs and symptoms of it, but can you help us with the recognition of mental illness?
Yeah, sure. Especially so if we're talking about specifically like depression,
Mm-hmm.
um, I would say the number well, in my opinion, the number one symptom or sign of depression is isolationism. Um,
Mm-hmm.
People, when they are depressed, tend to pull away, especially children. They'll they're more tired all the time, or they just want to not be around anybody. Things that they used to get enjoyment from, they don't feel fun about it anymore. I think that that's probably the number one sign that we need to recognize. When you see your friends or you see your child starting to pull away and trying to avoid being around people and just isolate themselves a lot, typically that's a huge sign of depression. Now, prior to that, you may see them not eat as much, not take as much care. Like if you got a child that loves to dress up. I got a daughter who loves to dress up.
My
She's six,
Jesus.
six and want to put on heels. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like,
Mm,
no, 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 baby. You
right.
ain't yet. So, but when you see that child, your children, you have to pay attention to the things that they like to do. You see them starting to pull away from things that they normally find enjoyment in and trying to isolate themselves from others. That's a real big sign that your child may be slipping into depression. Um, and a cousin to depression is anxiety, right? I say that they're like two sides of the same coin because they're both based on most cases some type of fear. So either your child becomes depressed, they start pulling away, or they become anxious, very fearful of what's about to happen next. And so we just got to educate them and talk to them. I think
Right.
that those are the main signs that we can pick up on, though.
So, in regards to the anxiety that the youth have, because you're talking about certain things now, like even
Right.
with the stuff that happened in the schools with the school shootings and things of that nature, I've noticed, with my kids,
Mhm.
that the attitude and demeanor of school um change, if I could say it that way, to where, at one point it was, I don't feel like going to school today. This one that's sitting beside me, once she gets herself back together, we'll discuss that. But I'm like,
Right.
and so I started, boom, like, why? Like, give me the whys. Why don't you want to go back to school? Da, 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 like on and on and on, trying to figure it out, because I'm like, no, baby girl, like, we're here, like, talk to us. Is there a problem? So you go through all of the different questions, as in, why all of a sudden are you being bullied? So I just attack. Like I go in just for the kill when she's I was
Right.
like, anybody hurting you at school? Are you being bullied? Da-da-da. And she's literally going like, no, mom. Like, with
Right.
this whatever,
You're too
but
serious, mom.
yeah, like you too serious. Like you need to chill out, right? And so, but those were the things that I would ask. And so I'm gonna ask this question to her. Like Kennedy, when I would, I guess in a sense, go that way with you, how did it make you feel with me even asking you so much when something occurred or when you asked questions like that to me of I don't want to go to school? How did it make you feel?
It made me feel like, yeah, you are there for me, but it kind of made me feel like you're a little overprotective sometimes, just a little
Okay.
bit,
Just a little
just a little bit,
overprotective.
yeah.
Y'all see this camera just flipped her over. That's okay, but because we just gonna join us together in my camera and just make that work. So as you're continuing talking, Ricky, talk
Yeah.
about too a little bit with us some things in regards to we have a question. So I want you to address that. The question says, how do we get help for our kids when we notice that? So when we are noticing the changes,
Mhm.
how do we actually get help? What are the things that we need to do that?
Well, I would say the first line of defense, the first thing you can do to help a child when you notice those things is you offer companionship. You are the first front in regards to helping children with depression and anxiety. Um, and it's a little different because it, like Danielle was just mentioning, like you don't want to go into mommy daddy mode where you're trying to jump in and protect them from things from the outside, but rather you want to come with a more friendly approach where you're trying to understand them first. And that's if I with your own child, it may be more difficult, honestly. Your own child doesn't always want to open up and say everything, but your approach needs to you need to understand that you're dealing with something internal, and so you can't attack the internal. Rather, you have to kind of invite them to give you that information. So that's the first step. Kind of talk to your child. Try to get them to bring that information out. We do have a lot of most school systems now do have built-in counseling systems right there. So even if you don't try to enroll your child in any type of counseling, it would be good to talk to teachers that they trust or counselors at the school that they trust and make them aware. Hey, I've noticed some things with my child. I don't know if they're depressed or not, but I just want to, I have some concerns, and let them help you help your child, because sometimes they can invite them into a group or pull them to the side at lunch and have a conversation with them, and those type of just touches I think make
Yeah.
a huge difference, because again, when you deal with anxiety and depression, these are internal things. Oftentimes anxiety is a result of fear of things that are outside of your control. I use something simple like my daughter that I was just talking about, um, little Trinity. She's afraid of
Oh,
spiders.
Trinity. Yeah.
Yeah, Trinity's definitely afraid of spiders. Like,
Oh wow.
I'm talking the baby spider, like the teeniest one, the one that's smaller than her pinky.
This
She's
one.
definitely
Oh, Jesus.
afraid. So if a spider is in the room, like she can't move. She's going, oh my God, it's a spider. I come in there, it's the size of her. She could blow it away. But
Right.
but her anxiety kicks in, she's afraid, and it paralyzes her. Um, I have to teach her how to deal with that.
Right.
That's something that, you know, obviously is in her control, but she feels like it's not. And a lot of times that's what anxiety is. We're afraid of things like it's outside of our control. I can't do nothing about it. But there often are things that you can do, that you can control. And if you focus on those things, you can get through the anxiety. So you have to teach that skill to your children. Otherwise, they'll run away from all kinds of things. And it's the flip side when you deal with depression, right? Depression is they're not paralyzed by that situation, but rather they're pulling away. They feel hopeless. And again, you have to teach them skills to show them there are things that you can control. I know that you feel hopeless about this. You feel like it's not going to work out. Here are some things we can do that we can control and focus on, and you help your children to become more resilient. Um, so I hope that helps. But again, as far as getting help, you are that first line. And then I would go through our school counselors. And if you need a higher level than that, they would be able to direct you. I think that's probably the best way to kind of unify the community and helping us with our children.
That's good. I do like that. I noticed one of the things that was stated was the companionship versus the judgment
Right.
that we give, and that's a lot of times I've because of other things that have gone on with me, my personal life that I've dealt with. Then anytime I see something, one little small thing, I like really go straight to jumping. I won't say jump into a conclusion, but at the same time I'm so protective, and I'm like, I don't want anything to happen. I don't want anything to happen. So I'm quick to, I don't want to call it judgment. Right, I don't want to call it judging, but I'm quick to start to questioning, to judge. She's smiling so hard like, yeah, mommy, it's judgment. But I would smile, I would like really go at it, because um I'm again wanting to protect her. What I realized, as you say though, with companionship, when I started to relent in that aspect and like, okay, just wait, let her come, let her talk. I've noticed the more that I show companionship and friendship, and I tell her all the time, I'm your mama, not your friend. Like, don't get that mixed up, because a lot of people go, oh, that's my friend, that's my best friend. Girl, I'm your mom, like mom first. I'm gonna be your friend, but I'm your mama first. But I go to that level in aspect or in retrospect to say to her like, okay, I am your friend though, and I want you to be able to come to me. So you have to have that open door of communication. I want you to be able to speak to me. I want you to be able to talk to me. I want you to know that you can come to me with anything. And that is the door that I think that we miss with a lot of the young people in itself. Like, they don't have the freedom or the security or the trust to say, I can come to you even. So we have to open that up to them. So I really think that that is good.
Yeah, what you just said. So it's about building trust. Like that's a
Yeah,
word that we don't use enough in our relationship, especially with our children. Like you have to build trust. And I hate to say it, but even in some cases, you have to earn different levels of trust, right?
that part.
You know what I'm
Yes,
saying? So they're going to give you a certain level of trust, but then there's another level that you may need at some point that you have to earn. And parents don't want to earn anything from their children, right?
right.
With us, with us, like I'm your mama, I'm your daddy.
Right.
I'm not,
Right.
I'm not your friend, but it's okay to be both. And we have to realize it's okay. So what is a relationship? A relationship is two people or two or more who understand their differing roles. That's how we relate to one another. I'm
Right.
mommy, your daughter.
Right.
I'm daddy, your son. I'm friend, your friend. We understand our roles, and that's how we can relate to one another and deal with one another. As long as we keep those lines straight in our conversations, we can have real conversations with our children. But but parents don't always want to earn that trust. So what you said was key. Seek first to understand, then to
Mhm.
be understood. We don't do
Right.
that with our kids.
Right.
And we should. We need to seek first to understand, then to be understood. If we
That's
do that, that in and of itself will help our children deal with anxiety and depression. I'm sure of it.
that's good. I like that. That's good. Kennedy, anything you want to say in regards to what he just said? Anything you want to share?
Okay, so back to what he was saying, when what is a relationship? I do agree, but also a relationship is a bond between your ability to do things. Like a father buying your child toys, that's a bond that you build, also as a trust you build. And then like when you were saying, you are my mom first, and it is okay to do both, because but you have to understand that being a parent comes first, because trust has to be built and responsibility as well with that.
That's right.
So yeah.
That's
That's real
good.
good, Kennedy. You sharp. You
She get it from her mama. No, I'm just joking. But no,
you
she.
you just reminded me of something. I need to say this before I forget.
Go ahead. No, go ahead,
I
please.
say this before I forget. Go Army. That's what I gotta say. Before
Oh my Lord
I
Jesus.
had to say that. I was sitting backstage listening to you in this Marine course. I'm a Marine. Oh my goodness. I go Army. Who I, you know, we gonna do it. But anyway, I had to say that. But yeah. So this
That is
conversation,
hilarious right now because this is what, and here we go Air Force,
you gotta do
and
it. Here's why though,
whatever.
because our families,
Right.
just like we're all in on the Army, all in on
Hmm.
the Air Force, all in on the Marine Corps. We have to be all in on our families.
That's
That
good
is
right
the
there.
core. That is the core. You want to talk about the core? That's the core. And
Right.
so the more we can figure out ways to make our families stronger, I think these situations in our schools, our children will be better prepared for them. These are situations that will be out of their control. Um, and the most we can do, and they'll be out of our control too. The most we can do is prepare our children. And so when you're building that trust with your child by spending time with them, like Kennedy said, buying a toy, it's not always the fun things either too, Miss
Right.
Kennedy. Sometimes your parent builds trust in you. You learn to trust your parent when they say, if you do this, I'm going to do this,
Right.
and then they do it. You learn to say, man, my daddy gonna do what he say.
Exactly.
and,
Yeah.
and so that builds trust over my mama going to, if she says she gonna do it, she gonna do it, good or bad. I'm gonna get what she says. So being consistent as a parent also builds security in your child. I'll tell you, working in the environments that I have worked in, one thing that I've learned is that giving a child a routine makes
Mhm.
them feel safe. The more regulated you are as a parent, the more consistent you are as a parent, the more safe your child feels, and your child will blossom more under that. You may think I'm being too hard, but you're not. Your child will blossom. They'll learn to understand what they can and cannot do. They'll be more confident and more safe. And at the end of the day, depression and anxiety oftentimes come because our children don't feel safe. They feel unsecure. And so we have to do everything we can to be consistent as parents, um, being the first line of defense, being someone that they can trust is going to listen to them. And then everything else kind of builds from there. I hope I'm not rambling too much. I'm trying to.
No. This is good, and what you just said. And I have a question. Once I say this, but I want to say this in regards to that. What you just said about being consistent as a parent builds trust with your children. And I hope Kennedy doesn't really mind me sharing this. I'm going to. I love you. It's not bad. But one of the things that have been going on with us as a family is that consistent piece. So I'm discussing in regards to like me and my husband's work schedules.
Mm,
Like you see, she did like this because that we had a long conversation about that. And
yeah.
well, let me let you. Can you want to share it because of the inconsistency, how it was making you feel? Do you want to do that? I can do it. Okay, all right. I didn't want to, let you talk. But one of the things that we were talking about is because I started noticing some things with her. Um, not bad because my kids aren't bad. So it's not like that, but the change in the demeanor, the tone started being a little different. And I was like, Lord, I ain't going to jail. Help
Mhm.
me, Jesus, And so I had to pull her like, dude, we gotta go here. We gotta talk.
Right.
And so and I tell her, I said, open table, safe space. We have to learn too to develop a safe space with our children.
Right.
I remember when I'm diverting a little bit. I'm coming right back to this. When we were younger, My dad used to have like this family forum, something like that. I think I said it that saying it right. But he would do a family forum night where all of us would get together and he would say, all right, everybody can say whatever they want to say. You're not gonna get in any trouble. It's all good. You can say it. We was like the first couple of times, it's like, you gonna kill us if we say what we really want to say. Don't play. Like, no. But once we tested the water with some things, right? The trust was built, and so we were able to, share some things that, after you say it, you did like this, and it was like, oh, that's a good point, whatever. And so recently, some things were going on, and I was like, Kennedy, I was like, remember when me and your dad was talking to you at the table that day, and we was like, it's a safe space. I was like, safe space, like share, just say what you feel. You're not going to get in trouble, whatever. I said it's only going to help us be better parents, because that's what we want to do. We want you to trust us. We want you to be able to come and talk to us. And she started talking about our work schedules and the lack of family time, not being able to like share this. And it's not that, and she knows we love her. She knows that's not wasn't an issue, because I asked. And I'm not saying stuff because she's here. I've raised my child to speak her mind. Sometimes she goes too far, I think, and I have to say, you did this to yourself. But I raised her to do that because I want her to know that she can, to be a strong, person, not to be opinionated, but to be able to speak your mind so no one would run over you, type thing. And, whatever, say what you have to say. And so she's been sharing this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's affecting her. We're supplying, we're, making sure food on the table and all of that good stuff, as we do as parents, making sure we can buy the toy, buy the whatever. But that quality time, she's at the age and she's like, I need my daddy home. My daddy ain't here. He at work. And I'm like, but he at work. But he not here. We don't get to spend the time together like we need to and whatever. And so I shared it with Kenny. I was like, dude, like, ooh, this is the deal. Like, and it hit him, because it's his job, so it's like, oh, what am I gonna do? And so it sort of kind of messed with him a little bit. But at the end of the day, it was like, but our family comes first, our house comes first. Being able to be consistent, for her to see the consistency between us as a family, then that helped build trust. Last couple of nights, we've been up 3 o'clock in the morning. Jesus. As a family playing cards, whether it's phase 10, we played
Uno.
Uno last night, right? We played Uno
Okay.
last night.
Till
Gabe
3 o'clock in the morning.
man, I'm telling you, one morning, I think it was like 2 something, but I stayed on the chair till like 3, like it's crazy. And I'm like, oh God, like this is too much. But I did it. I was tired last night, and I was like, I'm tired. And Reagan was like, but please play. And I was like, I'm tired. Like, no. And Kenny was like, go to bed. I was going up the steps, and I turned around and I sat down, and Kennedy was like, you're not gonna play. Like, I mean, she was like, Kennedy was like, you're not gonna go to sleep. But I was like, I gotta do what I gotta do, because my
Right.
thought was, I gotta build this quality time with my family. And so that consistency
Yeah.
that you said, being consistent as a parent to build a trust, like, that was like key for me. And yes, memories will last forever. And so that's some of the things. I'm gonna stop, Bradley. I'm gonna stop. That's some of the things that we have to remember too, because the certain memories are gonna last, they're
Yeah.
long lasting, and you gotta make sure that we're doing what we need to do. Okay, so here's the anonymous question here. Um can I read? What does this say? How do how do we prepare our children to go to school and tell them they will be safe when they have to practice what to do? This is good. When they have to practice what to do when there's a shooter and they turn on the TV and that training doesn't seem to work. That makes a lot of sense, Anonymous. I'm going to read it again, Ricky. Here we go. How do
Okay.
we prepare our children to go to school and tell them they will be safe when they have to practice what to do if there is a shooter and they turn on the TV and that training doesn't seem to work? Whoo!
I mean, that is a great question.
That is a
That is a great
great
question.
question.
Um, so I think the answer is multifaceted. Number one, the preparation part of that, right? Again, starts with us at home.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of us have actually, since, say, for example, this thing that just happened in Texas, how many of us have actually sat down and talked to our children? You know, we
Right.
may be talking about it. We may be watching it on the news. Our kids may be talking about it to each other or talking about it with their teachers. But do we have that conversation? Because I think that sometimes we're afraid our kids aren't ready for the conversation, and trust me, they are. They know a lot more than we give them credit for. They're a lot smarter than we are, and we gotta just accept that and try to step up our speed, right? Because we try to slow things down, and the world's coming at our children a lot faster than we want it to.
Right.
So number one, we start those conversations and those preparations at home. Number two, the things that they're doing at school, the drills that they're running, the shooter drills and all these different things that they're doing now. I think that in some ways that could make your child scared, maybe. But I look at it honestly, having been in the school district, working in the system. I mean, for our kids, honestly, it's just like them practicing a tornado drill,
Right.
or hurricane drill, whatever. They to them, it's just another part of the routine. Now, what happens when it really goes down? That's something different. But what I've learned, and you've probably learned this too in military training, once you've practiced the thing so many times, when it's actually time to do it, it just happens.
Automatic.
It just happens. Matter of fact, let me Kennedy, can you help me out with something real quick?
Sure.
All right. Let's try this. I'm making this up as we go.
My mind.
All right. I need you to spell with me, or spell for me, the word pots 3 times as fast as you can. And if you're not sure, the word pots is spelled P-O-T-S.
Okay.
All right. I want you to
wait a minute. Did you not know us?
No,
She didn't understand what I said.
I didn't understand.
Okay. I
Yeah,
was about to say,
So
oh
I
my
want you to spell it for me 3 times as fast as you can. I'm gonna hold up my hand. All right. Ready, set, go.
P-O-T-S, P-O-T-S, P-O-T-S.
Now, what do you do at a green light?
Go.
You got it right.
Yes.
Now, what most people would do is they would say, stop.
Stop. Because that's the first thing came into my head.
Now, if your mom, I saw it in her face. If your mom would have yelled out her answer, she would have said, stop.
Sure.
What you did is what a lot of people don't do. I watched you do it. You paused, you thought about the question, and then you answered it. Most people will answer immediately based off of what they've been doing.
That's so good.
It's just a response. So because I had you saying P-O-T-S, P-O-T-S, what do you do at a green light? Stop. Because those letters are in your head. People just go with the flow. I say that because oftentimes if we practice a routine over and over again, when the question comes, we immediately go to that answer and that response. And so that's what we hope happens with our children. And that's why we do the different drills, the tornado drills, we do the shooter drills, so that in that moment, they don't think about it, they just do it. What Kennedy did, which was great.
Yeah.
And I don't see a lot of, especially not her age, a lot of kids do that. That, again, that's a demonstration. Kids are smarter than us.
I was just about to say that. They are.
They think, they're quicker than us. All that internet, man, they fast, man. I'm telling you. So anyway, so we start the preparations at home. We reinforce those drills. We don't compete with what the teachers are teaching those kids. You and the parents and the teachers have to be on the same side in that regard to keep our children safe. So don't compete. Understand what it is that they're teaching and try to reinforce that to have your child as prepared as possible. And then the last part of the question, in regards to what they're seeing on TV, and it seems like it's not working. We can't control that.
Right.
Some things, all we can do is prepare our children, teach our children, give them trust and hope, and pray that when the situation arises, if it does, God keeps them and they're ready. At the end of the day, Um, well, so a few months ago, I was watching one of my a good preacher that I like to watch on TV, and he's old, he's like 85, and he was talking about how somebody came up to him and was like, "Man, look at your grandson. I hate that we're leaving them to the world that they're in. I mean, there's so much stuff going on."
Here we go.
And he shook it off. This was the first. It changed my mind. It changed my whole paradigm because he was like, when he said it to me, I stopped and I looked at him and I said, you know what? I'm not worried. He's like, my grandson is just as prepared for this world as I was for the one that I inherited.
That's good.
Now, I may not be ready for it, but he is.
Right.
And so we have to trust that the things we're instilling in our children will grow up in them and take root in them, and they will be able to handle this world that we're so afraid of. And so we can't allow our fears to be translated to our children. And I think that when it comes to these shooting drills and these shooters and all of that, I think a lot of times the fears that our children come to school with are our fears, not their own. And so we have to learn, we got to control our stuff and teach our children to be better than us. That's my hope. I hope that my sons are better than me, not just as good. And so, yeah, I hope that answered the question.
I think it did. I think that was a great question, and it did. I know we were actually talking about it last night. I think me, Kennedy, were at the table when I was reading something that was on LinkedIn, and they were talking about the person that actually killed the shooter. They were saying that it was an agent, a border patrol agent that was off duty, that was in the barbershop, that his wife texted and said, "Hey, this is going on at my school." He grabbed the barber's shotgun or rifle or whatever out of the barbershop, and they went in. He gets to the school and he literally runs past 19 officers that were just sitting there, and he goes into the school, into his wife's classroom, get her out, get his daughter out, goes back into the school and kills the shooter. And I said, it got to be more to the story. Like, this does not make sense. 19 police officers, no way, no, no, no. And so, of course, the Marine in me now pops up like, oh, what just happened? What am I reading? And I was like, we're trained to this. And so the training kicked in. Like, I've been out of the Corps since 98. Okay.
Right.
And I was like going through these trainings and stuff in my head because I was like, boom, 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 da 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 da. And then I kept reading, and they said, actually, it wasn't that agent that actually killed the shooter. It was another off duty Border Patrol agent that went to the school when he heard what was going on. They wouldn't let him in. He had to wait to get in. But once he got in, he killed the shooter. Still, I was like, what is going on with the cop situation? And, they're constitutionally, they don't have to defend us with their lives, that, they're police officers, but that's not something that they have to do. And so then I'm sitting there and I'm talking about it, and I think about the training that you're talking about, the drills that they do. I don't know if anybody is too deep and too saved to watch Dave Chappelle, but I watched Dave Chappelle, and he's funny as all get up. But one of the things that he was talking about with his son, and he was talking about the drills. They were having drills and trainings and stuff going on at the school. And he was like, why would y'all be trained at the school to defend yourselves, and the person that's the shooter is in the class being trained with y'all? Like, that was his thought. That was one of the things he was saying.
The drills too.
They know the drills too. So going back to even that, a man was on TikTok and he was talking about his son and him. They were having the conversation because now he's having the conversation about what to do with his son. And he said his son said that to him. 13-year-old son said to him that this is what he thinks about, because their children or their young people that go to the school, that are coming back to the school with the weapons shootings, like, they know the drill. Yeah. They know what we're supposed to be doing. So I'm in fear. So here we go going back to the mental state and mental health of the people that are in the school, the young people in the school. They're like, I know the drill. So do they. So when something is going down, my thought is, They already know how we're supposed to save ourselves. What am I supposed to do? That frightens me.
Sure.
And so I do understand the fear. Like you said, we send the fear with them. I pray and I ask God to cover them, but at the same time, I am fearful because I think about the ages of these elementary school children that got killed, and I have a 5-year-old, a 10-year-old in elementary school, and I was told, because I didn't see for myself in this aspect, but I was told that these children were unrecognizable. And AR-15 was shooting these children. It's an assault rifle shooting these children. And some of them were so unrecognizable. The parents, they were identifying the kids by records. And they wouldn't let the parents go in. So this is the fear that I have. And I look at Reagan 10, I'm looking at Gabe 5, and I'm like, an AR-15. And here I go, the crazy Marine comes up again. I wish somebody would. Now I'm thinking this is what I have to do to protect my kid.
Right.
This is it's crazy. So the mental health state. One person has in here, and I want to talk about this too. And we are talking about assessing and recognizing. We're going to
Yes.
go to treatment in a few minutes. But one thing that someone has here, that I'm going to read. It says they have become desensitized to the fear we hold so strong. It's on every channel every week, almost every day.
Mhm.
Mental health has been identified more in this generation than in ours. And I totally agree with that statement. I was telling Kennedy, there are things that we went through. And when you talk about it now and you go back, we was like, boy, we were bullied. Like I go through the list, like it was bad, but we
They
didn't
got
we didn't
they
recognize.
got titles for stuff now.
They got titles for
We
stuff
didn't have
now.
we didn't have titles for that stuff. It was just stuff you had to deal with.
Exactly. Just stuff
And
we had to deal with.
yeah, and if I'm honest, having looked at the DSM-5 and the way they diagnose people, half America, if we went to
Yes.
a clinician to be diagnosed, more than half of Americans would be diagnosed with some kind of clinical something. I mean,
Absolutely.
we all got something that we're dealing with emotionally, mentally. But yes, nowadays they diagnose it, they have names for it. And I don't know if that's necessarily good or bad. Um, I was thinking about this as I was getting ready to have this conversation with you today. I remember, and you'll appreciate this, Danielle, I think.
I
So I
hope.
remember, I remember because they just name stuff all the time, and it's not always right, and it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you just because they diagnose something. Here's the story. So I was working at the Therapeutic Learning Center, and to come to our school, you had to be recommended. There had to be a professional recommendation. You couldn't just have a parent sign you up. So in light of that, we would receive files or clinical statements about each child prior to them coming. And so I received this file. I'm sitting down with the team. This kid that's coming in says that he possibly has multiple personality disorder. He's schizophrenic. He has an explosive personality. He will burst out and just run out of his classrooms. He does it every day. And so they approved him to come to our school, and they did it like with a day's notice. So we didn't have time to prepare, put any kind of plan in place. He was coming tomorrow. And so they were like, Gaillard, you're the best with discipline. So we're just going to sit you on this one and you figure it out. So I already had a plan in place. I read how he was behaving, and I was like, all right, well, my mentality is I can always loosen up the reins as long as I start out kind of tight. So I start out tight on the kid.
Mm-hmm.
So my mentality was the first time he tried to bust up and run out of this classroom, I'm going to go ahead and tell him, you got two options. You going back in your classroom to sit down and behave, or you come into this timeout room with me, and we're going to be there all day, and you're going to be safe. I had it worked out in my head. I knew how I was going to say it. And I knew that if I did it just right, all the other stuff, all the other behaviors that I hadn't seen yet, they were going to come out. The explosive personality. If he has multiple personalities, one of them is going to jump out. Now, the file folder said this kid had, when he goes into this other personality, his voice changes. He starts sounding like a Jamaican person and all kind of stuff. I said, man, this is crazy. So the day came, sure enough, he busts out the classroom. Sure enough, I step to him. I tell him, you got two options. Sure enough, he starts yelling at me in this other voice. And the other voice, the boy was from Charleston. All it was, he was mad, and he sounded like he was coming out of his native dialect. And I immediately recognized that. I said, boy, where are you from? He said, I'm from James Island. I said, man, if you don't get back in that classroom. And he went in there and he sat down and he behaved. He was in the 6th grade. He was in the 6th grade. He had been completely misdiagnosed this whole time. I gave him some harsh discipline. He stayed in that classroom. He ended up being one of our top class kids. He graduated from our school with honors. Could have went back to his base school at any time, but his mom loved the way that we dealt with him, so she wanted him to stay. My point is, even with all the diagnoses that they have for people, that it ain't always right, and it's not always an issue that can't be dealt with or needs medicine. Sometimes it just needs consistency, and again, it starts with the parent. I used to parent these kids, right? And they would listen to me before they listened to their own mama. Why? Not because I was nice all the time, but because I made them earn my trust too. You want to earn you have to earn my respect too. You got to show me what I have expectations. And that's what relationships are about. You need to set expectations. Mommy, I have expectations of you. Daddy, I have expectations of you. Oftentimes, parents just want to put our expectations on our children, but we don't want to own up to the expectations that they have for us.
Ooh.
So,
that's good.
So I, so my oldest child is out of the house. She grown, God bless her. She running around. She might be watching me right now. I don't know. But as she was getting older, especially in high school, I would sit her down every now and then and ask her, say, hey, Leah, how am I doing as a dad? Like, what am I doing well? What could I do better? And it would be an honest conversation. And I felt it necessary because I want to be a good parent.
Right.
It is my desire. I have a desire to do good as a parent. The only way I can know that I'm doing good as a parent is the person grading me tells me that I'm doing good.
That's right.
And so I give my child that opportunity. Now, granted, we've set boundaries, right? So the conversation goes well. But I think that parents need to be brave enough to ask their kids how they're doing. See if you're meeting their expectations. Because kids have expectations of parents. And
that is so good.
And so anyway, I've gotten way away from all of this factors into our mental health, right?
Yes, absolutely.
It all factors into our mental health. And so I don't want to get off too far away from, again, my focus tonight was just to kind of hit on depression and anxiety, because those two tend to lead to the types of behaviors where we see kids going to school, shooting up schools, or self-harm.
So that part, yeah.
Are hurting themselves. And there's levels to that as well. So anyway, I know you're running low on time. I don't want to.
No, this is really, really good, because everything that we're talking about.
Was about to say something. Oh,
I'm sorry, sweetheart. You was what? Go ahead.
I was going to backtrack to what he was saying with kids sometimes have like checklists or schedules that they have to go through. And my sister Reagan, she is autistic. She does handle mental health and self-awareness differently. And my mom told me that she has this schedule that she goes by. And sometimes if that schedule is interrupted, then sometimes her whole day might be interrupted. And like special needs and autistics and stuff, they go through things differently. And parents sometimes have to recognize that so that they can help them and help them grow bigger with it. Because they break out into a rage. Sometimes my sister would break out into a rage if her schedule or her day is messed up.
Yeah.
And so, as I was saying, parents have to recognize that in order for their children to grow stronger and become more consistent in that.
That is 100%. That's 200% right.
Yes.
That is
And that's
200%.
yeah, and that's really, really good. And honestly, what I was gonna say was gonna tie in some of what she just stated, because even so, and I'll just go ahead and continue to talk in regards to that with my daughter. And we're talking about the consistency that we as parents, like, we need to show them consistency. And once we do, how they, interact with us, them having their own schedule and showing us they can be consistent as well, because it is twofold. Because if they're not consistent in behavior or in attitude or in whatever, it doesn't even have to be behavior, because it could just be like a schedule. When we find out what that consistent thing is, everything can flow better. And so even when one of my friends have on there that the labels that are placed on individuals, sometimes we get misdiagnosed, or we are diagnosed with something and we just start to live up to what the label is. And
Yes.
I will say that, and that's why I was going to go from that to our daughter. Oh, Al, not Al, like me and you, Al. My
Not
daughter,
your daughter,
not our daughter, but with my
but ours.
daughter, but Al, yeah, but Al, but with Reagan, for so long I kept saying, oh my goodness, something's wrong, something's wrong. I wasn't trying to put a label on her, and even when she got her diagnosis, I wasn't trying to say, boom, this is it. Like, not trying to say that what the doctors diagnosed was incorrect. That's not what I was saying at all. But I didn't want to have her to be stuck with that, to say she's autistic, so everything is about her being autistic. At one point, I had to talk to Kennedy, because okay, so with autism, you have your autism, and then you just have misbehavior, right? Because
Right.
they know what
Yes.
they're doing, they can play you. And so in that regard, sometimes Reagan would be at a spot in her life, or in her behavior at that moment, or in her day, and I'm literally going, which one is this? Which one
100%.
is this? Because I want to make sure, as an effective parent, I'm parenting her on where she is. I'm
Right.
not going to say, oh, this is your behavior because you autistic, or you just
Never
being
do that.
bad. Right. Because, and even going back, when we didn't go get diagnosed in our generation, it's just, y'all got to deal with it. I'm telling you now, I'm dyslexic. I know I am. I didn't go to the doctor and be like, you're dyslexic, but I have every sign. When I went to the
Do it.
doctor with Reagan,
Mhm.
and going through the stuff with them, the doctor kept looking at me, and she started laughing. She said, you see yourself? I said, I think so. It's funny.
Right.
Your dad, a great friend of ours and pastor, he tells me often, he said, you on the spectrum. Like, and I go, thank you,
Right.
Pastor Gaillard. But I said all that to say, with the weighing, you have to see where they are. And I
Absolutely.
used to tell Kennedy, because Kennedy, I could tell when she started saying in her own mind, oh, so Reagan gets away with this because she's autistic. And so she would say that, yeah, scratch. She would say that every once in a while. Oh, so she's autistic. So that's why. And I had to pull her back. I didn't jump on her throat, which I could
Right.
have, but I didn't. But I had to pull her. I said, let me explain something to you. There's a difference here. She literally, clinically, she has a diagnosis that she's trying to work through, and it's harder for her. Some of the
Right.
things are, I said, now we're gonna decide, and we're gonna know which one is a bad behavior or not. I said, and when it's a bad behavior, we'll deal with it. And I told her, even with her bad behavior, we still have to watch how we deal with her because of her autism. So that
Right.
is going to take effect, but she's going to be disciplined. And so, she had to learn it, just like we had to learn it, to learn
Right.
how to deal with you. People are getting diagnosed. There are people out there that, when I tell you that, they're the young man that you dealt with,
Yeah.
I believe that he just needed somebody to listen to him. He just needed to have somebody's ear.
Right.
He
So
needed somebody to focus and help versus, oh, you are Jamaican and you schizophrenic and you crazy.
right,
No, I
get him
need
out of
help.
my classroom. No. So,
Right.
so to emphasize again, back a point that I made earlier, seek first to understand,
There you go.
then to be understood. That's a key to being, I think, a good parent. Seek to understand
Mhm.
before you dole out your punishment. First understand, or your reward. First understand, and then go from there. That's number one. Number two, the when we are diagnosing children or adults, the reason we're putting labels on things is so that we know how to deal with it, not for it to become an excuse.
There you go.
There are certain techniques and certain skills that we have to learn in order to deal with certain issues. In
Right.
order to do that, we have to be able to label that issue. Once we've labeled it, now we know how to deal with it, or that's what we're supposed to do. I remember, and so here's the thing. So kids that have autism or different emotional disabilities, they still can learn certain behaviors.
Yes, sir.
And what I mean
Absolutely.
by that, so what I mean by that, and I learned this from dealing with my son at a very young age. When Gabe was about 2 years old, I was shaking him up and playing with him, and he pat me on the face, and I said, and he started cracking up laughing. And he did it again. And I started, and he would crack up laughing. And immediately the Lord showed me, like just that quick, he learned when I do this, Daddy
Uh-huh.
does that. And
Right.
it's funny. He learned that. And so what happens is our children can learn that if I do this, mommy will do that.
Right.
And so
Right.
if when I start screaming, mommy gives me ice cream, guess what I'm going to do when I want ice cream?
Scream.
If every time I have a tantrum in school, they let me go and play outside, guess what I'm going to do in the classroom?
There you go. That's it.
So when we reward negative behaviors, we are teaching our children that when I do this, I get that. So what parents and teachers have to learn to do is the exact opposite of what they want to do. Don't pacify that child. He has a temper tantrum. You take something away. As long as you acting like this, you're going to stay in this classroom. Everybody else going to go outside. Good. Stomp again, and you'll be in here tomorrow too.
Right. That's
You know
right.
what they learn? I can't stomp because I can't go outside. But then immediately, so what you have to do early on though is when they change that behavior and they do something good, over
You have to
reward it.
reward. Right.
Over
Yes.
reward it. Make them
Yes.
say, "Oh, dang, I didn't. All I did was be quiet a little bit today, and they gave me lollipops. Guess how quiet I'm gonna be tomorrow?
Right.
I'm gonna be real quiet tomorrow. Watch
Right.
how many lollipops I get tomorrow. Like, so you gotta reward. You gotta starting out. You overly reward the good side, and then you wean them back to find that middle ground where they need to be. But
Yeah.
learned behaviors is something that is real, and so parents need to understand you can't reward bad behavior. Parents, teachers, you can't reward bad behavior. You have to reward when they do what's right. And when they do what's wrong, they need to get a reward for that too, a consequence. And so that's, I just wanted to emphasize that again. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Also be aware of the learned behaviors. What are you teaching your child? What behavior are you reinforcing?
Right.
And then lastly, I would say this: kids understand their diagnoses too, and
Yes.
and once they get to that learned behavior stage, this literally happened to me while I was working at TLC. A kid literally he was misbehaving, and they knew they couldn't behave like that with me. I'd check him. So as soon as he saw me, he immediately stopped misbehaving. He looked at me. He was like, "Man, Mr. Phillip, my ADHD just acting up today." I said, "Boy, if you can tell me your ADHD is acting up, your ADHD is not acting up."
Right.
And the reason I'm bringing that out is we don't want our label or our
Right.
diagnosis to end up being an excuse to
Right.
misbehave. It is not an excuse to misbehave. We labeled it so that we could understand it and teach you how to deal
How
with
to
it.
deal with it.
And so we could properly deal with it, but it is not an excuse. Even if you're on medication and you forgot to take your meds today, meds don't make decisions for you. They may
That's
help
good.
you calm down to make a good decision,
Right.
but you still make the choice.
That's good,
So
Ricky.
regardless, we have to teach our children how to make good choices. And for some of our children, it may be harder because they do have different mental disorders
Right.
or emotional disorders. So it may be difficult for them. I'm sorry, it's a little harder for you than it is for me. It may be a little harder for you than it is for your sister, but you're still required to make good decisions. I'm
That's
not
good.
gonna. I can't let you think that because you have a disorder or a disability that it's an excuse to misbehave. It's not. We just got to learn how to deal with it, and that might be hard for all of us, but we're going to do it together. And so when we take the time to understand where we are, because I think mental health is really starting with understanding, and then moving forward from there, I think we can do better for each other.
Absolutely. And on that note, with the recognizing and understanding where the person is, assessing the behavior or the state the individual is in, then you're treating it. One thing that I do know in regards to even using my family itself in person with my daughter, it was the treatment process. A lot of times that when people have the mental health disorders, and again, you don't want to use the label. Like, I didn't want to say, oh, she's autistic, not because there was this stigma, she's autistic. That wasn't it. I didn't want the label to follow her for
Right.
herself. So I didn't want to keep saying it. So I wouldn't say it. I wouldn't say it. And so I was depressing it. And then I had to realize, because I started suppressing it so much. Then I started pulling away from her diagnosis in a sense, not intentionally. I realized it later on, but I started to pull away, and I was like, then I had to realize, wait a minute, full-fledged come back, because I don't need the depression. I don't need a mental health issue to where she's acting out. And the next thing you know, we have something that, God forbid, it could be major as a school shooting, or she harming herself, or she harming somebody else in her classroom because she's in a rage. Thank God she's never gotten to that point, but you don't want to get there. So then for me, I was like, okay, I gotta, not just for me, because my husband is a part of this, but we had to start saying, okay, it's for her. Everything has to be for her. We got to make sure we're helping her. It's not about us. It's about her. It's not about us. It's about the individual that has the problem. It's about the individual that has the mental health problem. It's about the individual that is going through depression, is getting ready or thinking about, committing suicide. And so we didn't do medication. No, we're not doing it, because my thing was, find out who she is first. Find out as much as Reagan can do without Reagan having to do it, because this girl is smart. When I
Mhm.
tell you, like, so intelligent, the doctor was like, I want to follow her. One doctor was like, I want to do a study with her. I want to keep following her. So she's at, with MUSC, and they're like, we want to keep up with her, because like genius level, like crazy. And so, but she has some comprehension issues. She has her sensory is whew. I was trying to figure out what a girl was jumping off my doggone tables and dressers, and she would land, and the sensory, the what she felt was giving her that soothing. I didn't know all of that. She needed occupational therapy and this and all. I'm just like, girl, what is going on? She was pushing my furniture all in one spot in the house. And I was like, first of all, we don't live with ghosts, the blood of Jesus. Because I never seen anybody doing it. And then all of a sudden I caught her one day, and I was like, what are you doing? I was like, well, push it back. The doctor was like, and let her do it. So there were things that she started having to do
Cool.
and to need to cope. She started wearing weights, like the weighted
Yeah.
vest, because she
Cool.
needed something to keep her. All of that needed to, and I would like, she hugs you all the time, and she's squeezing and she's hugging, and I get tired of it. I'm not even gonna act like it, because don't hug me, but that's what she needs. So when she comes up, she tapped me on the shoulder, and she's like, and I'm like, what do you want? I need to hug you. And I'm sitting there like, I don't want to. Okay, Reagan. And if I let her hug me and I don't put my arms around her, then she's like, ma'am, like what happened to my part, and
Mhm.
so they need this stuff, they need the treatment, so please make sure that you get whatever that treatment is. When she started with the medication, because I was like, me and my husband started talking, we was like, okay, we're at a point to, I feel like it's blocked, like we're at a brick wall with her now,
Yeah.
so what can we do? And we went to the doctors. We started talking about it, and we started talking about the medication. I was like, no, 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 no. And I noticed the first time, and I was on the phone with my sister, who's a physician, and I was talking to her on the phone. I was telling her about the medication, and she's internal medicine specialist. So I'm talking to her, blah, 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 whatever, whatever. And I told her what I gave her. And then all of a sudden, Reagan was just like standing in the on the wall, and she was just like looking around. And I was like, what is going on? So I was telling my sister, like, she's just standing. She said she's focused. I was like, no, she's like, she's seeing stuff that she's already seen before, but now she's noticing the stuff that she's seeing. So, and I never thought about it. So when I went to, got her in school, back in this, in the school, I did not tell the teachers that I gave her medicine, because I wanted them to tell me if they noticed the change, because, they, this whole medicine thing. This girl went to school and was so focused, and it was like, and she was able, her grades, she was already doing well in school with her grades, but the grades, I could see it, I could see the focus at the house, and I was noticing something, and I was like, okay, God, thank you. Because a lot of times, as church people, as Christians, you pull back, you don't want to do that part. And we
Right.
noticed that she started to focus, we noticed that it was helping her. I said that to say, the treatment that is necessary, do the treatment, get the
Yes.
treatment. If you notice it, get the help that is necessary. A lot of us don't want
Yes.
to do that part, but get what is necessary. It's not, there are people out there that their children are mass murderers, and then they say, I didn't know, I know he had a problem, but I didn't know it was to this extent. I just thought, you know, get help, seek the help that your child may need
Amen.
for them. Counseling, even if it's at depression. I asked this one, I said, you think we need to go to counseling? Do you think you need to go? No, I asked her, what I asked you, do you think you need to go to counseling? And she was like, why are you looking like that in the camera? Because first she was like, no. And when we were talking the other night, then she looked at me after we were talking. I said, she said, well, mommy, do you think you need to go to counseling? I was like, yes, maybe I do. But even in that open conversation, we started noticing each other and was able
Yeah.
to discuss with each other what we think we may need. And so these are the things that we have to do. Like, we have to get that treatment. So after recognizing, after assessing the situation, the treatment. So Ricky and I, because we are running on a time, but were there any time in your profession where you had to say, there's a treatment plan that has to go here? What did that treatment plan look like? Because it not necessarily have to be medication, but what did treatment plans, what type of plans can we put in place for individuals that we have noticed with mental health? Before you said that, I see one person said, I tell my child not to use her disability as a crutch because she still has one good leg to stand on. So use it to straighten her one good leg. That
Right.
is a great statement, Patty, because that's what we have to do. So with these individuals as such that have that one good leg, what treatment plans do we have for those individuals?
So that's a very great question. Very great question. Uh, Unfortunately, I probably won't give the greatest answer,
Okay.
because treatment or behavior plans,
Right,
treatment
right, right,
plans,
right,
behavior plans, um, they have to be individualized.
right,
And so there's not one fit all type of rule that would help you to help get all that organized. But a lot of the things that you just said were really, really so good. And so when it comes to treatment, if your child needs medicine, first of all, especially for all of us that are hallelujah holy,
okay.
God uses medicine.
Luke was a physician, right?
God uses medicine. It's true.
Okay.
It doesn't have to. medicine in and of itself is miraculous. It doesn't have to be the kind of miracle that you show up and then the person with the withered hand just grows. That may not be the case.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But the miraculous use of medicine and good physicians, you can utilize that and trust God at the same time.
Right.
So I want to emphasize that. I also want to emphasize when it comes to a treatment plan or a behavior plan, again, you have to be consistent with it. You have to be consistent with it. So parents need to know this. At school, teachers talk trash about parents. I'm telling you right now, teachers talk trash about the parents who put their kids on meds, but then don't use the meds all week, but only use it on the weekend when the child home with you. Don't do that.
No.
Don't do that. Send the child wild and crazy all week and then medicate them when they're at home with you so they'll be okay at the house. That kind of inconsistency over time is a detriment to your child.
Right.
And then your medicine has to be changed up and they have to get these higher dosages and they never learn the coping skills and things that you just talked about earlier. So number one, whatever the treatment plan is, the parent needs to be the focal point. I love what you were talking about earlier because everything with your daughter started with you and your household. Whereas a lot of times what we dealt with, it was the teachers had to complain and then the counselors had to get involved and then they go to the parent and then finally the parent is forced to bring their child to my school or to get counseling and all that. And so it's just, it's so out of order. I think that's the word that what I'm looking for. It's completely out of order. I heard this. I heard a teacher once. She was talking. Well, she was an administrator, and she was saying how the teachers are afraid of the parents. Wait, no. How she say it? She said that the administrators are afraid of the parents. The teachers are afraid of the administrators, and the kids ain't afraid of nobody. And so that's the way the schools are run a lot of times, and we don't want that. That's a lot of. And it's mental health. It's mental health. It's because of inconsistency in treatment. It's because of inconsistency in medication use. It's because of fear of stigma. Again, we have to overcome those fears. We have to move past those things. It's okay to diagnose what you have. You can't fix it if you don't know what it is. It's okay to take a treatment plan that involves medicine and counseling. Those are things that, especially in the Black community, we don't like. We don't like medicine, and we definitely don't like no counseling. I don't need no counseling. I got a pastor. Well, anyway, I'm not gonna go there.
Don't do it.
So when it comes to a treatment plan, though, it has to be individualized. It should center around the child, and it should start with the parent. And it needs to always be that way. And here's the thing that, at the end of the day, I think makes it difficult is the amount of discipline it requires. It requires a lot of discipline, and it requires a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
When I was listening to you talk a few minutes ago, you know what I thought about? So y'all seen this commercial probably. So there's a commercial. This is what I was thinking about. There's a commercial where it shows like a parent, like he opens a door and he's looking into a room and he's like, man, Tommy, I just can't come in today. You know, I'm sorry. I just need the day off. And then they turn the camera and it shows that he's talking to his baby that's in the crib.
I saw it. Yes.
He's like,
yes. I saw that.
The day off. And then the caption is like, you know, parents don't get a day off. Like, you don't get to take, you're a parent all day, every day from the time you have that child. You don't get to call in sick. And so at the end of the day, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And that's why parents don't always do the best job, because nobody wants to work all the time.
That's
you want to call in sick, especially if you're dealing with a child that has an emotional disability or a mental disorder. It's that much harder. And so my heart goes out to parents that have to deal with that. My prayer is that God continue to strengthen you. You can handle it. Fine.
Yeah.
For parents, we need to get in counseling groups or groups where we can just talk to each other about our drama and lift one another up. We need that. Without that, honestly, a lot of us will fail.
That's
Just
true.
like you can't be a good Christian without going to church. Sometimes you need to be around other good parents so that you can continue to be a good parent. It's okay. But we have to be willing to not only own our strengths, but own our weaknesses.
Yeah.
We are weak, we are fragile, and we need help too. So anyway, I hope something that we said today helps. I don't want to take up all your time. I know we over time probably.
This is good. This is good. Kennedy, is there anything that you'd like to say? What you've gathered from this? Any thoughts that you like to close yourself out with?
Yeah.
Actually, when he was saying like putting together a group for parents to just talk, like an open table discussion, I was just thinking that open table discussions build trust, and groups just talking with each other about situations you can learn from them, just like how you can learn what happened from your children. Like my sister, I learned from her a lot. Like I learned that she is really smart. I learned how she handles things, and I learned how to handle her differently. And just learning from environments and things around you can help a lot. Really can.
That's good. That's really, really good.
Really.
Um, and I am going to say this. I am so glad and so happy that you decided to want to come and share. Again, I did not ask her. As soon as I mentioned the topic to my husband, she was like, "I want to do this," and I was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Okay, like." That let's see if we can make this happen. And I talked to the producer and I talked to Ricky and I'm like, let's see. And she wasn't coached. This is authentically her. This is how she is pretty much 24/7. These questions and these comments are coming from her heart. So I appreciate your courage to actually get on this live and share your heart and share your thoughts with me and with the world. So thank you guys for even accommodating and listening to her, and thank you, Ricky, for accommodating her on this dealing with mental health in the schools and depression in the schools, and how we are to take the child as we can and groom them and to work with them and make them better them versus us just giving them a label, saying this is what they are, dealing with the mental health, assessing it, recognizing it. And I just keep saying that: recognize it, assess it, treat it. Because if it does not get treated, or if we don't even forget the part of the treatment, but if we don't even recognize it, it could just build and build and build until it's catastrophic. And so we don't want that to happen to them. We don't, or something catastrophic to happen to them or to happen to anybody else in this world, because we want to do our parts as people that can possibly be an aid to help here. So thank you so much, Kennedy. Again, I appreciate you. Ricky, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us. Guys, thank you for listening. Ricky, anytime, like for real, every time I hear you, I listen to you on your Bible studies and with the church, with your dad church and Miracle Temple. If you're in Myrtle Beach,
Murder
if you're in the
Beach.
Myrtle, because I was about to say Conway, if you're in the Myrtle Beach area, Miracle Tabernacle, bleh, Miracle Tabernacle Church of God in Christ is a wonderful church to go to. Pastor Philip Gaillard and his sons and the elders and missionary there. Ricky is wonderful. His Dell is wonderful. Like the whole family, they're wonderful people. And when I tell you, you will gain knowledge and you will gain word. It's going to be the unadulterated word of God. Like it is good, it's rich, it's true, and you break things down. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you for coming and taking the time to be with us again on today. And for those that are on, listen, please, 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 I would ask that you all would patronize Ricky. He did not ask me to do this. I'm doing it because this is a ministry as well. And so I'd like, if you would like to give something to him, please do so. Look, I'm saying hashtag $ Ricky Gaillard. It's on Cash App. That's what I don't laugh at me, little girl. Mom's getting no. It's Cash App, and please Cash App him $Ricky Gaillard. That's GAILLARD, and be a support to him. He didn't have to take the time to do this. Ricky, again, I appreciate you. Please do so, and also if you want to just be a support to the ministry. I'm gonna stop. I'm talking to her. I'm gonna stop. Be a support to this ministry, because Danielle Lee, the brand, Danielle Speaks, that's what it is. We are trying to spread the word, spread information, spread knowledge that is going to benefit families and communities, and build churches, because we can't build churches without family first, and
Right.
doing things for the community. So please, you can Cash App here, because what we do is going right back out to help and assist everybody else. Have you subscribed to the YouTube channel yet? Please go to our YouTube channel, Danielle Lee _ the brand, and subscribe. You can go to our link tree. And if you go to the link tree link, all of the platforms are there. You have the 2 Facebook pages, you have YouTube, and you have Twitter, you have Instagram. I think I said LinkedIn. Yes, all of those are on there. So you can definitely join the platforms there. Again, I appreciate each and every one of you. Do not forget that you can still like and share this video, because though that we got people listening tonight, there are people that did not hear tonight that can hear later on. So please share it. It is going to be on the website. It's going to be on different platforms as well. So definitely do so. And also, last but not least, visit my website, www.daniellerlee.com, www.daniellerlee.com, and you can get a copy of my book, Shame Is Not to Blame: How Overcoming Pain Leads to Purpose. Please be on the lookout for the new book that is going to be out soon, Deliver Me From Me. Shame is not to blame. Deliver me from me. And so I thank you again for joining us. Until next time, I would like to say, Danielle Speaks.